Let's learn some Torah. I told the Olam, I was speaking to Itchy Meyer, and I said, which Torah should we learn? With the Chevra. So he said, Reish Pei Beis. So Baruch Hashem, we're underway. But we have the Baruch of the Tzaddik with us, giving us life, that we should learn Hashem's Torah. We should learn the Torah of Reish Pei Beis. That's the code to get through the gates, like we mentioned before. And Mitzvah Hashem, this should be a way to open up tremendous simcha, happiness in our lives. Because can't we all use that nowadays? And the main theme that we're talking about in Reish Pei Beis is finding the good. Finding the good in other people. There's so many things I could see in another person. Look at that guy. What does he think he's doing? Doing that double parked. And look at this guy. Oh, he's so rude. He's always interrupting. I can either choose to focus on that, or I could choose to focus on the toiv. I can focus on the good. I can focus on that what makes this person special. And Rav Nachman taught us already that not only should we do that with other people, we should do that with ourselves. We should do that with ourselves. We should look at ourselves, and we should be able to see the good inside of myself, as opposed to all the negativity, but rather look to the good inside of myself. I am a good person. And it's so easy not to see the good, and I'll explain why. Because we're made up of a body and a soul. If no one ever told you that, it's important that you know that. You have a body, but you're not a body. You're a soul. And your soul was put into this body of yours. Now, is the body finite or infinite? The body? What's the greatest proof the body is not infinite? After 120 years, it becomes part of the landscape. We should all live until 120 years. B'ezrat Hashem. But the body is not infinite. The body decomposes. The body gets all shvach. If the body was infinite, everyone would be walking around like gains. Like it'd be like 500 years old. Like, yeah. They'd be able to eat whatever they want, and the body would just be perfect. But the proof is in the pudding. The more pudding you eat, the more the body starts to decompose into the ground. And therefore, if I continuously look at myself as a body alone, I'm always going to see my flaws, because I'm looking at something which is inherently flawed. But if I look at myself as a soul, I look at myself as a neshama, the neshama is infinite. My soul is infinite. And therefore, if I focus on the soul part of me, the soul part of me has so much perfection in it. I start to refocus my inner self-talk, and we're going to talk about this more in the Tanya. My inner self-image of who I really am. All that mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? So if you're looking at yourself from a body perspective, there's always going to be someone more fair than you, someone more beautiful and someone more photoshopped on the computer. But if you look at yourself, I'm in the neshama, I'm a soul. And every single soul is different, and every single soul is unique, and every single soul has a specific purpose and mission in this world. I see so much good inside of me. I have a job that nobody else can do. Do you ever think about that? Each one of you have a job that nobody else can do. And that Hashem put you in this world to do that job. And moreover, you woke up this morning because Hashem believed in you that you could do that job, that nobody else could. And you had to wake up this morning. And therefore, if you're awake now and alive, and Hashem believes in you, and there's some part of your life nobody else can do. And you know the day that has that energy the strongest? On your birthday. Because that was the day that Hashem said that the world cannot go on unless you come into this world. This world needs your special mission, your special job, your special contribution. When you start looking at yourself in that way, it feels good. You get spiritual gains. It feels good. It feels good. And Rav Nachman is teaching us to take the perspective of always looking at the negative and moving it towards the positive. Living a life of focusing on the positive as opposed to the negative. Focusing on the positive as opposed to the negative. And this is now the introduction to the next part of the piece of Reish Pei Beis, which is this is how music works. So let's talk about music a little bit. And Rav Nachman's really going to unleash this when we get to the end of the Torah. Says the Rebbe, you keep looking for all the good in you. You keep summoning all that good. You keep focusing on that good thing, and that good thing, and that good thing. Both in other people, but also in yourself. That good thing that you did, that you woke up early, that you did this thing, that you called a parent, that you reached out to somebody that really needed your help, that you lifted somebody up that was a little bit down. You did this thing, you did that, you were a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more patient with your wife and your kids. You did something where somebody needed you and you were bigger than yourself. All that, you keep calling that in. And we already mentioned last time, a technique to do this is to write down your good. Write down other people's good. Take a piece of paper, sit down for 20 minutes, the pad, and write down all the good of the guy that sleeps, in the bunk bed above you. And even though he puts his smelly shoes, beside your pillow, under the bed, and you smell them when you go to bed, still spend 20 minutes writing all the good points about that Jew, about that person. It's so important. All the time, all the good, focusing on the good. Make a list of all that good. So important. And when you do this, v'al yedei zeh nase nigunin, you can make songs. Says the Rebbe, by finding the good as opposed to the bad, you start to make music. What does he mean? Like we might, Mirz Hashem, do this Torah, maybe in the Chanukah time. Bechin is menagen kli zemer. How do you make music? And you play an instrument. You ever heard a person, anyone who's sensitive to music, when you hear somebody playing beautiful, beautiful, all of a sudden, when that note is like an off note, it's like, ooh. People who really like music, when like the guitarist like hits the wrong note, it's like, oh no, bro. And some guitarists just never do. But everyone does. Everyone's fine. Even Trey, as good as he is. You understand? When the wrong note goes, it's like, oh, no. Because what's music all about? Watch this. Shehu bechinas shemalaket haruach toiva min haruach necheya atzvus ruach. Music is about taking the good notes from the depressed, the low notes, the bad notes. And all of music is being able to pull out the right notes. And real musicians have a feel for this, of where does it go next? Where should I play next? Where should I be moving to? So you see musicians, they become in many ways one with the instrument. And they're just moving, there's a language of music where they're moving towards good notes. And if they hit that off note, they chose the wrong note. And music is the secret of choosing the right notes at the right time and not going towards the low notes, the bad notes. That's all of music, is choosing those notes. And that's happening in real time when someone's playing music. Ein Sham. V'haklal. And the rule is the following. Ki negina de kedusha hi gevoya me'oid me'oid. Ki yidur. Rav Nachman talks about this a lot. Holy music is very exalted, is very, very high. Who knows, what were we doing in the Beis HaMikdash? Singing and music. It's amazing, the holiest place in the world was a non-stop rock concert. Lahavdil. It was musical. It had to be musical. Everything was musical. Very musical. And the highest of the spiritual worlds that tzaddikim teach us is called the Olam HaNegina. When a person gets into the next world, so someone who is a musical person will understand the language of the highest of all the worlds, the Olam HaNegina, a very high universe where the language there is song, is music. And that language is music of seeing the good, choosing all those good notes. That's why music does something to us. Music moves us. Music is very, very powerful. It's known, Kenagin Amenagin, that when a person would try to get prophecy, do you know how he would learn to get prophecy? So it says that the prophet would sit in the center of a circle and they would bring musicians. I don't mean like, Tupac or something. I mean, Chashavim musicians. And they all sit in a circle and they play music. And the music would arouse the prophet to such a degree of ecstasy that he would start to prophesize. Because the happiness, the simcha of the music and all of prophecy is seeing the ultimate good. Seeing Hashem mamish, getting a direct communication. That's why people in music, any musicians know, when a person gets to that state in music, they like transcend the world. That's one of the reasons why musicians just love psychedelics, is because they're going in a certain direction. They're looking for something beyond. Now you don't need psychedelics if you have music, but the musicians, they see it going together. The psychedelic way is just in many ways the counterfeit of it. The idea is that prophecy is the corollary of music. Prophecy, actual prophecy. And that's why the musicians would arouse and excite themselves through music to such a degree that they would actually receive Hashem and go into a trance of music. And many people feel this a little bit when they go to certain musical experiences, especially, it's not a coincidence that many people from the nation of Israel just happen to love the band Fish and the Grateful Dead. Everyone knows that, right? Is that those were bands that were experimenting and going on a journey of music. They were trying to go to different places of opening doors and experimenting and going to higher levels. Even the way that they play is all about allowing opening and opening and opening and opening and opening and opening and opening. And for people with a connection to their soul, there's a natural yearning for going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. They're looking for something. And if music is used properly, in the holiest of ways, this was the job of the Levites, was to take the nation into ecstatic levels of prophecy. King David was the greatest rock star, excuse my French, excuse my language, King David, of all time. He was the greatest musician. It's an amazing thing to realize who our hero is. The warrior, king, hero, poet, musician. Honesty. I fall. King David is the real human being who goes through everything. And all of it is through music. If you learn the Psalms, if anyone's ever seen the Psalms have very crazy trup, the cantillation notes in Psalms, anyone ever seen what it looks like over there? We don't know what that sounds like, but when King David's resurrected from the dead, he's going to teach us the niggin again of the real niggin, the Tam Elyon, the high level stuff. He's going to teach us, because King David was always seeing the good. King David is the greatest musician, the greatest king of all time. Even when things are bad, he's looking for the good. He's making music. He's putting all this together. And that's how he's able to heal Shaul, like it says in Samuel. If you look into the book of Samuel, Shaul got very depressed, right? You guys remember? Shaul was like down and out. He was like in the dumps. And there's an alshich that people should see over there, that Shaul was down and out. And the only way for him to get out was through holy music. Through holy music. The alshich explains there is that music from the dark side is very dangerous. Because music is unique. That's why there's a prohibition in halacha to listen to music that's not holy. You're not allowed to. Because music goes in to the deepest places. It goes right into the neshama. It goes in there. And depending on who the musician is and what their belief systems are, if you're listening to them, when you're listening to music, there's a lot of openness. So whatever that person believes in, that goes right in there. And he might not know that the consciousness of that person is going into him when he's listening to him, but all of a sudden a year later he's He's sitting and he's trying to learn some Gemara. He's trying to go to a Torah class. And all of a sudden he gets these doubts in his mind. Yeah, is the Torah really from Sinai? Now, he's like, where did that voice come from? Now, he doesn't realize that could have been like Biggie is like in his head. Because I don't know what Biggie thinks about Torah Sinai. I didn't ask him personally. But all those voices, I don't know what, Britney Spears, Hashem should help us, thinks about Torah Messina. I think she holds in Kabbalah, but I don't think I'd learn from her. I'm not sure what they actually believe, but if those voices are in there, then it's going to create a challenge of how am I going to be able to think straight because I have all these other voices. However, if I can get holy voices, voices of emunah, a voice of truth, voices of connection to Hashem, through that music it lifts me up. It lifts me up to a very high place. So it's very, very important, holy music, and that's why only King David could bring Shaul out of his dark depression. He was in a depressed, dark place and needed King David, the holy King David, the Adam Zmiris Yisro, to pull him out of that depression. Music takes us out of depression because real music is the idea of taking the good from the bad. And when I hear holy music, I start myself identifying with the good inside of me as opposed to the bad. But unholy music, which is more about seeing the bad notes, makes me focus only on the bad. That's why a person listens to like death metal, and he doesn't know, like, why am I so depressed? Bro, like, you've been listening to somebody talk about being depressed who is really depressed themselves for a long time. Maybe there's a reason behind, maybe there's a connection behind that, It could just be a simple correlation. But we don't get it, we don't think about it. But Rabbeinu Reb Nachman's trying to teach us, holy music takes you to the highest places. The highest places. One more line, Chevra. When you start to listen to holy music, you start finding the good, you start creating these symphonies inside of you, you start making big things happen. And this that I keep looking, I want to find more good inside of me, more good inside of me. I'm creating the symphony of my life. And instead of me focusing on the negative parts of me, I bring it back to the good. Someone came to me today and said, I get so down. We can work on that. What did you do today that was good? Let's focus on the good. Let's pull it up that way. Let's start, and sometimes a person needs to kind of be shaken up a little bit. Let's start moving in the good direction. A lot of cognitive behavioral therapy is doing things that are positive, refocusing on positivity. A lot of the whole advancements in quantum physics of seeing how thought changes reality and how all the neurosyntaxes of your brain can shift based on your thinking. That physicality is manipulated according to spirituality, according to your psychology. You could change who you are through your thoughts, but it takes time, and it takes good music, it takes holy music. We should be zeicha to continue to listen to holy music. Amen. Amen.